Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Okay. Before we... I forget where I'm at. Before we hear our speaker today, let's go around the room and say our names real quick. My name is Roy.
My name is Michael. I'm Carl.
Alberto.
Andre.
Ken. Bruce.
My name is Tony.
My name is Howard Decourt.
My name is Eric.
David.
Daniel.
My name is Steve.
I'm Jeffrey.
George.
My name is Cass.
I'm Michael.
Lee.
George.
Tatwan.
Jerry.
I'm Tom.
I'm Jim.
I'm Jerry.
I'm Andreas.
My name is Sean Clark.
I'm Michael.
My name is David Lukaku.
I'm Marvin.
My name is Daniel.
Jim.
Coleman.
Oswaldo.
I'm Tom Bruin. I'm Ed Hain.
Brad.
Ron. Jay.
I'm Larry.
Larry Robinson has been practicing meditation since 1969 and is a student of both Zen and Vipassana traditions. He's a retired psychotherapist whose work focused on ecopsychology. Larry has served on the Sebastopol City Council since 1998, including two terms as mayor. His passion is the restoration of the oral tradition of poetry. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to sit with you this morning. That was such a delicious half hour. And I notice there's some empty cushions, and I wonder if the people who would otherwise be occupying that were lifted out of their bodies yesterday.
We only lost a few.
And I wonder, does this mean that we didn't make the cut and we're left behind, or are we actually in heaven? And maybe it's the same thing. I don't know. Actually, I prefer to think that we really are in heaven. As Mary Oliver reminds us, that the path to heaven does not lie down in flat miles. It's in the imagination with which we perceive this world and in the gestures with which we honor it. So, what I really want to start out talking about is the core text in Mahayana Buddhism, the Heart Sutra, which is very dear to my heart. And it essentially says, form is emptiness and emptiness is form. And there's a lot of ways to understand that. But the simplest way for me is that it's a reminder of our profound and radical interconnectedness. That there is, that all of our suffering really derives from an illusion or the delusion that there is something, the illusion of our own separateness, that there is something essentially me or you or stone or Buddha that has an independent existence. And if we believe, which we're conditioned to do, that there is some separate identity, then we have a tendency to defend that and reinforce the separateness that keeps us feeling alone and grasping for something else. And those people who really believed in the rapture and believed that Jesus was going to come and lift them out of all of their sorrows and troubles and suffering may be misguided, but there's something deeply human and understandable in their yearning for salvation. But the misunderstanding and the misguidance is the belief that can come from separating ourselves from this messy existence, this being human. And in the process, creating far more suffering for everyone else. Probably this is a gross overstatement, but I would venture a guess that the greatest harm in the world has come from organized religions or from ideology, from belief in an ideology, belief in an idea. Which is not to say that there haven't been wonderful blessings that have come from religions. But ideology itself is an intellectual trap that separates us from direct experience of reality. And this is, I think, why we meditate. And we may get into it, we may start out thinking that meditation will make me calmer, it'll help me relax, or I'll be able to attain certain wonderful states. And it can certainly do all those things. But as you pursue the meditation practice, and the essence of meditation in the Buddhist tradition is attention, something else begins to happen. And Mary Oliver talks about that attention in this beautiful way. She says, "This morning, 2 mockingbirds in a green field were spinning and tossing the white ribbon of their song into the air. I had nothing better to do than listen. I mean this seriously. In Greece, long ago, an old couple opened their door to 2 strangers who were, it soon appeared, not men at all, but gods. It's my favorite story, how the old couple had almost nothing to offer but their willingness to be attentive. And for this alone the gods blessed them. When they rose from their mortal bodies like 1,000,000 particles of water from a fountain, the light swept through every corner of the cottage. And the old couple, shaken with understanding, bowed down, but still they asked for nothing but the difficult life they already had. And the gods smiled and vanished, clapping their great wings. Wherever it was I was supposed to be this morning, whatever it was I said I would be doing, I was standing at the edge of a field. I was hurrying through my own soul, opening all its dark doors. I was leaning out. I was listening." So that listening, that attentiveness, is itself what connects us to the divine. And our beliefs and our ideologies simply get in the way of that. But the simple observation of the breath as it rises and falls teaches us of our interconnectedness. This breath that I'm taking, is that somehow separate from the breath that you're taking? When we animals inhale, that inhale is the exhalation of the trees. And when the trees inhale, it's our exhale. And the molecules that are entering your body at this moment are the same molecules that we all are sharing. And those molecules are becoming part of our body. And those same molecules were part of the bodies of people living some other part of the world. They were part of the body of the Dalai Lama, part of the body of the Buddha, part of the body of Hitler and Stalin. Whether we want to be connected or not, we are, in the sheer physicality of the existence of this body. And yet, there is nothing in this body that is permanent and is permanently separate and independent. There is no atom in your body that you were born with. Every atom, every molecule, every cell in our bodies have been replaced over the course of our lives. So what is it that we call the self? There's something that's recognizable. We can look at ourselves in the mirror or look at a friend or somebody else and recognize something. But we're never identical from moment to moment. We may think that it's my thoughts, but our thoughts change by moment to moment. As we sit in meditation, we observe our thoughts as they come and they go. And we observe our emotions as they come and they go. But that's not who we are either, is it? There is no permanent state. This is also what the Heart Sutra reminds us, that there is no independently existing thought. There is no independently existing emotion. There is no independently existing sensation or source of sensation. Everything arises and falls codependently with everything else in the universe. Let go of fear and rest in that which is. For peace, like love, comes to those who allow it. Let go of fear and rest in the stillness. Watch the breath rise and fall. Watch the tides rise and fall. Watch walls rise and fall. Watch towers rise and fall. Watch empires rise and fall. Watch the breath rise and fall. Let go of fear and rest in the arms of the one who has always held you, the one who holds oceans and empires and atoms and stars. Let go of fear and watch what happens next. And we truly don't know what happens next. We have our ideas about what happens next. And sometimes those are right, sometimes they're not. The challenge and the beauty in this practice is to live in uncertainty. To cultivate the place of not knowing. Because certainty is always an illusion. And certainty is what solidifies this delusion of self that keeps us separate. But when we practice learning the uncertainty and learning to be comfortable in uncertainty, we can begin to float. Like the Ojibwe poem says, sometimes I go about pitying myself when all the while I'm being carried across the sky on a pair of great wings. If we can simply let ourselves rest in the not knowing, something begins to happen in the heart, and we begin to experience directly our interconnectedness with the other. And therein is the very heart of the mystery of Buddhist practice. In the Mahayana tradition, in the Zen tradition, when each time we sit, we repeat the Bodhisattva vow. And the Bodhisattva vow is essentially, I vow to live with and for all beings. And the Bodhisattva is the one who has made a commitment to incarnate, take on a body deliberately for the sake of living with and for all beings until all beings are liberated. Knowing that sentient beings are numberless, he vows to end all suffering, knowing that suffering is endless. He vows to enter every Dharma gate, knowing that there is no end to Dharma gates. So essentially this vow is to always be here. Unlike those who pray for the rapture, the Bodhisattva comes back again and again, not out of some idea of I'm going to save them or I'm sacrificing my liberation or my happiness, but out of the profound realization that there is nowhere else to go. In fact, there is no one else. There is only us. And there is only here. And the other great text of Mahayana Buddhism is the Diamond Sutra, which teaches that the us to be saved is not just the human. It says whether one is born of a womb or of an egg or of the wind or of the combination of elements, if you believe, Buddha's teaching his disciples, if you believe that you are saving someone else, you're perpetuating the illusion. Because there is no one else. It is simply us. And the joy in that realization is that everything is holy, that everything is safe. Nanao Sakaki, who was, he died a few years ago, is a wonderful Japanese poet, friend of Gary Snyder's. During the Second World War, Nanao was a radar technician in the Japanese Army, and he was actually the one who spotted the Enola Gay, which was the U.S. Airplane that was bringing the atomic bomb to Hiroshima. He was the one who actually spotted it first, entering his radar screen. And he devoted his life after the war to poetry and working for nuclear disarmament. And someone once asked him, how are we going to survive the nuclear arms race? He just chuckled and said, no need survive. Now think about that one for a moment. No need survive. If you could let go of the need to survive, how free would you be? Would there be anything that you needed to fear if you didn't need to survive? So what if you were to practice that? Then would you have a need to grasp for anything or to hold back from someone else's need? And when you saw suffering in front of you, would there be any reason to not respond to ease that suffering? Because this realization leads directly to the heart of compassion. And as the Dalai Lama said, somebody asked the Dalai Lama, what is your religion all about? He said, in one word, it's kindness. Naomi Shihab Nye has a poem entitled Kindness, and she says, before you can know the true meaning of kindness, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all that must go so you know how great the desolate landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you can know the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you. How he too was someone who journeyed through the night with the plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you can know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak with it until your tongue grips the thread of all sorrows and you see the full size of the cloth. Then you know it is only kindness that means anything anymore. Only kindness that wakes you up in the morning and ties your shoes and sends you out in the world to purchase bread and mail letters. Only kindness that lifts its head from the crowd of the world to say, it is I you have been looking for all your life, and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend. And one of the great secrets of this practice is that the practice of kindness and generosity leads directly to happiness. Not because it's the right thing to do or it's the ethical thing to do or, you'll get points in heaven for doing it. Simply because as you practice it, you find your heart opening, and what comes in is joy and happiness. And there's a way that our own sorrow, our own grief, if we allow it, will connect us to the heart of the world itself. And there is a rhythm in this giving of kindness that Mark Nepo addresses. And his poem says, I think that each comfort we manage, each holding in the night, each opening of a wound, each closing of a wound, each sponged fever, each pulling of a splinter or a razored word, each dear thing given to someone in greater need, each passes on the kindness that we have known. For the human sea is made of waves that mount and merge, until the way a nurse rocks a child is the way that child, all grown, rocks the wounded. And how the wounded, allowed to go on, rock strangers who in their pain no longer seem so strange. Eventually, this rhythm of kindness becomes the way we pray and suffer by turns. And if someone could watch us from inside the lake of time, they wouldn't be able to tell if we are dying or being born. How much time do we have? I forgot.
At least 20 minutes.
Okay. So the practice of loving kindness in the Vipassana tradition, the Theravada tradition, is a practice of directly opening the heart. It's called metta. And I don't know if you do this practice here, if any familiar with this practice? Okay, excellent. For those who are not, the practice is to wish happiness, safety, well-being, peace of mind, all the goodness for yourself, for those you love, for those that you may have some neutral relationship with, for those who you have some difficulty with, and indeed for your enemies. And sometimes it can be a very challenging practice. In my political career, in politics, people project whatever their shadow is onto you because you're visible. And whether that's the shadow of the hero or the shadow of the demon. So every Tuesday night, almost every Tuesday night over the last 12 years, I had the experience of someone standing up at the podium denouncing me for whatever imagined sin they had thought that I had committed. And my initial reaction is just to defend myself. No, I'm not who you think I am. I'm really a good person. But all that did was reinforce this tight holding on to me. So what I found was the practice of metta allowed me to dissolve the boundaries between that person and me and soften my own heart. So I would practice, may you be happy. May you be free of suffering. May you be safe. May you be at ease. So that's what would occupy my attention rather than the injustice of how they were treating me. And I don't know what it did for them, but it certainly made my life a lot easier. And for years I have kept a picture of Dick Cheney on my altar, specifically as one of the heaviest weights that I can lift in my metta practice. And sometimes I really am able to wish him to have a new heart. We all know about his transplants, and I wish for him to have a new heart that will soften his stance toward the world. And sometimes I'm able to see that scared little child inside that hardened exterior and see his fear and his pain and his suffering and realize that if he were not frightened, if he truly were happy, if he truly felt safe, he would not be doing and saying the hurtful things that he's been doing and saying. So may his heart be opened. And you know, we're living in very interesting times. And the Chinese traditionally consider the wish for someone to be born in interesting times as a curse. But I really perceive that as a blessing. I mean, think of all of the changes that have happened in our lifetimes and how much more rapidly those changes are happening with each day that passes. And even though they may not be happening as fast as we want, and even though some of them appear to be going in the wrong direction, when we look at the bigger picture, it does seem to be moving in the direction of a greater awakening and in greater freedom. And at the same time, our peril as a species, as a civilization, is increasing. When I look at the rate of environmental destruction, sometimes I'm absolutely terrified. And then I look at the rate of people waking up to what we're doing. And I see great hope. And I see young people beginning. There's a group of young people who are bringing suit against the state and the federal government for failure to take action on climate change. And most of these people are under the age of 18. And I don't know if we're going to make it in time or not. Something tells me we are, but I don't see how we're going to do it. But what I do see is the convergence of two trajectories. One is towards the collapse of our planetary ecosystem, of everything that sustains our human lives and the lives of the more complex beings that are part of our greater family, a greater community of beings. And the other trajectory of awakening. And these two seem to be coming closer and closer. And my suspicion is that they will meet at the cliff's edge. And that's the moment where, as a species, we'll have the opportunity to decide collectively whether this experiment of human beings is going to continue and be taken to the next level, or whether, like 99% of species throughout the history of evolution, will wink out and another experiment will start. In the bigger picture, I take comfort in the fact that I'm not just human, and I'm not just mammal, and I'm not just multicellular, but what I am is life itself. And I think that's what Nanao Sakaki was talking about when he said no need to survive. Because we are stardust. We are life. And we will continue one way or another. But the human part of me is attached to this human form and to all the beauty that has arisen in this, what we call the Cenozoic period of the last 65 million years. Flowering plants and all this beautiful diversity of life. And it would be a shame to let that go. So I'm committed my life to doing what I can to, number one, slow down the destruction. That's where my political work comes in. Number two, to work toward that shift in consciousness so that we all recognize that we're in it together and that any destruction, any harm done to another being or to the earth itself is harm done to us. And a third activity that I do is to work to promote those alternative institutions and structures and ways of living that are truly sustainable on the other side of this eye of the needle that we're entering right now. And the fourth thing is to restore what has been damaged. My forearms are kind of scarred up from last weekend tearing out, rooting out blackberry bushes in a wetlands area that some other friends and I have been trying to restore. And I think all of us need or are doing some combination of those four things: the working toward the shift in consciousness, the buying of time, the creation of alternatives, and the restoration, whether that's in the natural world or the human world. I think each of us is called in some way, in some particular way, to do this greater work during this time of transition. And it's an exciting opportunity, an exciting time to be alive, to be part of that. But often we don't know what our particular piece is, but we may still be doing it, whether we can name it or not. And William Stafford has a poem that talks about that. He says, the poem is called The Way It Is, and he says, there is a thread you follow that goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about the things you're pursuing, and you have to explain to them about the thread. But it's hard for others to see it. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen. People get hurt and die. You suffer and grow old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding, but you never let go of the thread. And one of the things that meditation practice does is keep us in touch with that thread. And even though our life circumstances may change, our relationships may change, our bodies may change, our health may change, all of our circumstances do change. But there is something, some thread that's running through everything that is eternal, and it's not us. But if we can shift our identification from this, what we know of by our names, by the history of our body, by our sensation, by our familiar thoughts, to the greater than human community, a community of all beings, from which we're not going to be rescued. And we settle into that. There is that thread that carries us. And there is our ultimate safety and our ultimate freedom. And there is really nothing to fear anymore. So I'm going to leave you with one final poem and then open it up for some questions or comments or whatever you'd like to share. John O'Donohue, former Jesuit priest who left us last year, wonderful poet and man of soul, says, "On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets in you, may there come a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, to awaken in you a meadow of delight. And when the canvas frays on the currach of thought, and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the water a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life." Thank you very much. So, any questions, comments, reflections, reactions?
Thank you for gorgeous talk. I love the poetry as well. Who is the you were just talking about? I mean, what does Buddhism say about, given that we're all connected, just what is the locus of identity?
Have you ever observed a stream or a river with an eddy in it?
Yes.
Yeah. That's who we are. There is nothing there, but it's recognizable as the same eddy. Even though the water is constantly changing and there is nothing there, there is a pattern there. And the pattern continues because of our habits of thought, of identification with, because we're holding on to certain thoughts and beliefs and sensations and feelings. That is what creates the eddy, and that's what continues until it doesn't. Is that?
I've just been recently reconnected with an old friend from 6th grade, and there's no question that we recognize each other through our email. Who is it that gets loved? What is it that gets loved? What is it that, no one could talk me out of that I don't know her.
Yeah.
I do know her.
Yes.
And I love her.
Yes.
I can see how there's a congestion of energy that constellates the phenomenon that we are.
Yeah.
But, love does seems to be real and not a
Yes.
delusion.
Love is real. the Hindus have, when they do this, this means namaste. It means the divinity in me recognizes and honors the divinity in you. So it's the recognition by the entirety of the entirety. If we could really see the entirety of each other, we would fall down in prayer. And I think that's what's happening there. Does that help?
Just maybe my hang-up. It just seems that there's an incompletion in Buddhist psychology.
There's what?
There's an incompleteness in Buddhist psychology. There's stuff that is not addressed. Yeah, I mean, there's much that is addressed of great value, but I think now this just may be my hang-up, but it feels like once we had a wonderful speaker who talked about that her granddaughter had made a scrapbook of all of her grandmother's pictures from her grandmother's life as a birthday present, and the speaker was talking about that the poor girl must know that there's a different person here, but I thought that was it offended my sense of my own grandmother. I knew my grandmother.
Yeah.
There was somebody there, and maybe that's the divinity. Maybe that's the sacred within.
I don't think we're saying anything different.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Heart Sutra says form is emptiness. It doesn't say, and emptiness is form. It doesn't say all is emptiness. Form is just as real as emptiness. Emptiness is just as real as form. Emptiness is exactly form. Form is exactly emptiness. There is no difference. The particular and the universal are the same. You are real. She is real. The love between you is real. William Blake says that the body is that part of the soul that can be perceived by the senses. And soul is not, I mean, in some forms of Christianity and Islam, they teach that the soul is some atomic being, some unit that's indivisible. I think my understanding of soul is the interiority, the insideness of everything. Western psychology has defined the soul or the psyche as a subset, or defined soul as a subset of the psyche. And I think it's really the other way around, that, as Blake said, the body is just that part of it that we can perceive with the senses, but there is so much more. In fact, the body is the doorway to the soul. And it's this most miraculous manifestation of everything, and is worthy of worship and respect and devotion and love. Yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful talk, and I would like to hear a little bit more about how you are able to function in the political arena, and make your agenda real in the midst of all the craziness that involves, and with all the big changes of this world around. What keeps you on task for that? How can you make things happen?
Well, there are 4 particular practices that I do in that regard. The first is to show up, which means to bring everything I've got into full engagement with whatever the circumstance is. The second is to speak the truth. And sometimes that causes trouble, because not everybody wants to hear that. The consequence of not speaking the truth is whenever you don't speak the truth, you diminish your power, your viability. You diminish yourself. So I can't not speak the truth in the political situation. The third is to pay attention, which and that means paying attention to when someone is speaking to me, paying attention not just to their words, but to what's behind the words, to the feeling state behind the words, to their intention. And often when someone's up at that podium ranting and raving, they're absolutely terrified, and that's what's behind it. So if I listen for what's behind it, I can respond appropriately. But also to pay attention to the political currents and to know that the window of opportunity for certain policies can open suddenly and close just as quickly. So just like with something like skiing or surfing or dancing, where you're feeling the energy, you have to, if you pay attention, you can know when the opportunity is there. So I learned to have my agenda, have all the policy proposals in my agenda ready, but not necessarily push them forward until the time is right. So that's where paying attention really comes in. And the fourth, probably the most difficult practice, is to let go of the outcome. All I really can control is my input into the system. I can't control the outcome of it. And, if you try, my in-laws watch bowling on television. And, so sometimes when I'm visiting there, I'll watch somebody rolling the ball down the aisle or lane, whatever they call it, and they're going like this with their body, after the ball's already gone, so they're trying to make the ball. And most of us do that after we take whatever action we take, but then we twist ourselves out of shape trying to control it, and it's already moving. So
I have to control this out.
yes, okay.
Thank you so much, Larry, for coming. Will you be able to stay for?
Yes, I'll be happy to talk to anybody about anything else.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Really quick, next Sunday, it's a special day here, another special Sunday. We have a Dharma Duo. And for those of you that have never heard of Dharma Duo, it's when two members of our Sangha come together to talk about their spiritual journey and what brought them to the GBF. And next Sunday we have Eric Anderson and Oswaldo Garcia. So please come on out and support them in their endeavor. It's really a very enriching talk, a really great process, and it's a great way to connect to members of the Sangha. The flip side of that good news is that it's also Carnival next Sunday, from what I understand. A friend of mine is going to be in it, and she was so excited yesterday. I was thinking, oh, is it on Saturday? No, it's on Sunday. And I thought, okay. So that requires, Muni, BART, drive halfway in, a little walk maybe to get over here because it can get very congested. The parking will be gone. Okay, so that'll be an early day next week. Announcements.
Paul, I'm your host, and is there anyone here for the first time? Yes. Okay. I want to welcome you, and I'll let you know that there's a sign-up sheet on the table back there if you want to get on the email collector group. I bought some scones, and you're welcome to have them and tea. Please take care of cleaning up yourself. There's a little yellow bucket in the sink. I'll put a little soap and water in there, and you just rinse your cup and rinse it in water, put it there. And I'll go around with the Dhamma bowl, and years ago we figured that the average donation to keep up what we're doing is $5 to $8. But there's no shame if you can't contribute, and there's no saying that you can contribute more. What other hosty things am I forgetting?
Lunch after.
Yeah, some people gather for lunch afterwards, and they'll be hanging around the front after we close here. It's social till 12:30 outside, and in the next room. And then at 12:30, people go, and some people go to lunch. Okay.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
Roy, first of all, I want to say it's good to be back home, and GBF has been such a source of nurturing and love in my life, so it's good to be back.
Good to have you back.
Revisiting here. Jeffrey and I, my partner, are making a move to the East Bay, and we're looking to rent single-family dwellings, so if any of you are aware of connections and resources. And finally, I'm a mediator, and I am offering my one-day Dynamics of Conflict workshop on July the 19th. If you or your organization leaders are interested, you can speak with me here in San Francisco.
Anyone else?
Yes, the Reverend John Adraka is leading a restarting of the Q Sangha on Tuesday nights at 7 at MCC on Euclid here.
Great. And Harley had to leave early, and he asked me to announce that today is Harvey Milk's birthday, and they might have a celebration or something around 1 o'clock or so, he mentioned, in the Castro, I think at the Camera Shop. So if you're in the area and you want to check it out, please do so. Okay, let's go ahead and stand for our dedication to merit. By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity without too much attachment or too much aversion, and live believing in the equality of all that lives. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.